What's up, Savages? Day 2 was disgusting of the MLG X Games event. It was gnarly. Now, I know right away everyone's going to be like, Envy and Optic, talk about it now. You got to talk about it. I'm just going to go ahead and wait. And the reason why I'm going to wait, 1, because I'm intelligent. 2, because I don't feel like doing it in this first segment and then people come later and they're like, oh, what did he say about Envy and Optic? Was it a throw? What's going on with it, right? We're not worrying about that. We're cutting that shit out, and we're just going to talk about everything in order, and we're going to start off with Pool A. Now, Pool A, as we all know, was a little bit unexpected on every kind of account here. It started off, and SB gave, like, EG a decent run for their money. They lost by 1 point on Strike Zone Dom, then they beat them in the search, and then they lost the other 2 games, which they didn't really look bad in, but regardless, SB finds themselves in the losers bracket. So does Optic Nation, because Optic Nation loses to TK. Now, you would think, like, on here that I have, like, a bunch of notes, right? But I literally just have series scores because I'm a classy broad. So, it's TK versus EG to kick off. Actually, no. Sorry, excuse me. It's SB versus Optic Nation to kick off the day of day 2. Now, Optic Nation, I have them in the grand finals of the X Games event. So they didn't make it past round 1 of anything. My predictions could not be more screwed. But I think if anyone out there predicted a perfect bracket, you deserve a high five, a little slap around in the face, and you deserve to take my job because I clearly don't know what I'm talking about. So SB versus Optic Nation, right? It's the battle of Fizzer versus Killa, right? Team Fizz, Team Killa, what's gonna happen? Strike Zone Dom comes out, they win by 3. And by they, I of course mean Optic Nation. They looked really good. They had solid rotations, but you almost expect Optic Nation to win those respawn game types, especially versus Strictly Business, just because, you know, Fizzer's not versatile. Boy, were we proved wrong in this series. So, game 1 goes to Optic Nation. Game 2 goes to Strictly Business. Fizzer averaging 11.2 kills in Search and Destroy. 11.2 versus everyone. Versus EG, Optic Nation. It's pretty impressive that he can average 11 kills versus the best team in the entire world in EG. If you don't find that impressive, well, I don't know how to please you anymore. So they end up taking game 2, then they take games 3 and 4, knocking Optic Nation out and destroying my entire bracket, so I'm screwed. Now, we're going to go ahead and jump up. TK versus EG. Now, this matchup, 1, people were expecting to go the complete opposite way. Benson called a 3-0. I called a 3-1. Fwiz called a 3-1. Maven called a 3-0. Like, everyone kind of expected EG to wipe the floor with TK. And it's not because that EG is such a dominant team over TK, which I kind of take into consideration, but that's not always the case for a lot of these teams. It was the game types, right? You had Freight Dom. You had, what was the Search and Destroy? Oh, God. I just drew blank on the Search and Destroy. Whatever, doesn't matter. Then you had Freight Blitz, and then you had Strike Zone Dom. You look at those 3 game types, regardless of what the search was, you would think it's going to be a 3-1 in favor of EG. But it's actually not what happened at all. So we're going to bring it into game 1, and this was the game changer, all right? So game 1 here, it's EG taking on TK. It's a clash, right? It's it's domination on Freight, all right? EG has side C at first. They're attacking A. They do an amazing job of keeping TK out of red. Now, when you're playing Freight, the one thing, when you're playing Freight Dom, when you're C and you're pushing crates, right? So you're pushing white, you're pushing beer, those kind of things. When you're that spawn, your main job, keep red completely free. That's all you have to do. Your job is to make sure they don't push into red. Why? Well, it's really simple when you think about it, because if they get red control, 1, you're forced all the way out far white, or you have to go underground. And some people are going to take the underground route, not realizing that it takes a good 30 seconds to go from underground railroad, where Harriet Tubman's hanging out, all the way around the A flag. It's a very, very long flank, and it's high risk, high reward, but whatever, right? So when you get red control, you can also dictate the spawns, depending on where you're looking, okay? So your line of sight, as we all saw last night, made a huge difference in the Envy versus Curse Orange match. We'll get into that later. God, that spawn's infuriating. So, it's okay, Scott. Calm down. So with your line of sight, if you're sitting red 3 or red 2, if you're looking out the back of red, so you're red 3 and you're looking out the back, you're going to block the spawn in lumber, just because your field of vision is casting a negative influence on that spawn. So it's going to force them to spawn all the way over at C flag, meaning you can spawn trap them. So when that's happening, like Scump just looks out the back door, right? When that's happening, just real quick, when that's happening, your teammates don't have to push up because they know they have to come all the way out. It's the easiest spawn trap in the world, right? And then on the flip side, when you lose red control, you actually have to push into red. And if they close that outside door, you're coming through a doorway, right? Anyone with a half-decent shot should be able to win that battle. And if they don't, well, I don't know what to tell you. My God, coffee is just delicious at this time of day. So TK, they're down by like 20 points this first side, right? They're down by 20 points. Everyone's like, oh, EG is going to beat the hell out of them. TK does exactly what they're supposed to do. They grab red control. They keep EG out of red. EG lost just about every single gunfight for the first 3 minutes. And by almost, I mean damn near close. Apathy is a complete shredder. Sharp stepped up to the occasion. Really, the entire team, you can't say the entire team didn't play well if they beat EG. You just can't. Too many things have to be in motion in order for you to beat EG at this point. So it's safe to say the entire team played well. But the one thing I did notice, which I think is going to be a trend here, is TK, when they were pushing on crates, some teams like to overextend to the point where they're all the way in the back on A, right? They're just sitting in the back, they're trying to hop on A flag, and then they want them to come, back white. Well, what ends up happening here is that if you push too far up, there's like a line on crates, right? If you push too far up, you give your team the flip. So then your entire spawn control just went to shit. Now, we saw this in the Envy Optic, or the Envy Curse Orange match as well last night, which, again, we'll get into. Infinity Ward, not your best spawn. I still love you, but I don't love you. So, by TK not pushing all the way up, EG could never break out. They were forced to win all their gunfights on height advantage, head glitch, like, you name it, right? EG was forced to come off a spawn, work together as a team to try to break out of it. Whereas TK is just sitting there on a head glitch basically saying, come on, right? Like, there's no chance they win that battle. So TK takes that series, and now, I mean, they win 3-1. The Blitz was an absolute beating. I think they won 17-5. Freight Blitz, by the way, which is one of EG's strongest game types, period, they got their ass handed to them. And that's just a fact. That you cannot sugarcoat it anymore. Literally, they got owned. TK steamrolled them. And then Strike Zone Dom, which you would expect, because Goonjar is such a heavy AR player, that he wouldn't be able to have a good carryover to a map like Strike Zone Dom versus a team like EG. You would expect him to kind of play like, a map like Sovereign or Octane, right? You would expect him to do well in those. But Strike Zone Dom, for whatever reason, we're seeing as TK was able to clutch it up and actually beat EG on the game type. So it was kind of like, these boys they're coming to play today, which I gotta say, if TK brings that here to day 3, we are going to have a very, very scary thing. Welcome back. So, we went through the EG scenario here with TK, in which they found themselves in the losers bracket taking on SB. Now, a lot of people thought, oh, this is going to be closer than what we originally saw. It wasn't the case. I mean, the games were close, but EG kind of just, they do what EG does. When EG's back's against the wall, they come out fighting. They're like a dog, right? You don't want to trap the dog in a corner, or else the dog's going to bite. You want to kind of let him have an open run, You want to half trap him in there and then finish it off, kind of like TK did, right? They didn't go up 2-0 and just blow the lead. No. They were like, oh, okay, EG, we're going to give you the search and destroy win, and then we're going to close you out in 4. For the longest time, we always said, the key to beating EG is you got to 3-0, right? Well, apparently you can 3-1 them as well. So, now, this is going to be the topic of the entire day. And by entire day, I really just mean this segment, but you know what I mean. So, EG losing to TK put them at the 2nd seed once they beat SB. Right? So the 1 seed coming out of Pool A is going to be TK. All right? I don't know why I'm like this, right? You know what I mean? Like I'm like, oh yeah, the 1 seed's up here, right? But it doesn't matter. We're going to run with it. The 1 seed is going to be TK. The 2 seed is going to be EG. So on the flip side, what that means is the big match between Optic Gaming and Team Envious. The winner of that plays EG. Yeah, right? Just let that sink in. The winner of Optic and Envy would be playing EG first in a single elimination tournament. Whew. Yeah, that's not what anyone expected at all. No one predicted TK to beat EG. And if you say you did, then you're just a delusional fan. Right? Like, I'm sorry. Like, there's no way anyone can accurately assess TK would beat EG based on what we're given between events. What we're given between events is online and play styles. That's it. That's it. There was no lands. There was no nothing. If you predict TK to beat EG at this event, you're just blindly biased. I'm just going to go ahead and say that now. Did they deserve the win? Absolutely. I'm not taking it away. All I'm saying is there's no way you can accurately predict the TK upset. So, Envy versus Optic. The big topic. COD Reddit, right? Optic Reddit. The Reddit of Infinity Ward. I'm just making shit up now at this point, but you get what I'm saying, right? Did Envy throw the series versus Optic Gaming so they could play Curse Orange, which we'll talk about the loser bracket later on, so they could play Curse Orange and then avoid EG and play TK. Right? You feel that? Just right there. That's me clinching up because, like, I'm on the fence, right? Like, I really full-heartedly, I'm going to bring you through my thought process here, right? Looking at the game types, I would have to say it's a possibility, right? Envy has always vetoed Octane versus Optic Gaming. They've always done it. They've never not done it. Why? Because Clayster alone makes you veto that game type. If you're playing against Clayster, you veto Octane Dom. You just do. The guy's a freaking turret. He doesn't miss. He puts on his iron boots. He puts on his green tunic because he's not going underwater because he's still in the sand world, and he just tick, 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 tick. It's what he does. So then you add Proofy into the mix, another AR where a 2 AR strategy actually works on this map. You veto that game type. There's no way you don't veto that game type. Now, there's a possibility that Envy decided, you know what? Maybe we don't want to play, I would say they don't want to play Strike Zone, but I just remember that Game 4 was Strike Zone, right? Like, there's 2 game types that everyone has vetoed since COD Champs. Octane, Strike Zone. Those are the 2 go-tos that you veto versus Optic Gaming. Somehow both of those squeaked in. Now, looking at it from the envious side of things, right? Yes, they got their Freight Search and Destroy, which they were arguably one of the best teams at, right? Period. They understand Freight very well. They do a very, very good job at executing plays, bait and switches through doors, coordinated pushes, little things that, you just see kind of work out for them. Didn't actually happen. Optic Gaming ended up clutching up and beating them in that game type, right? Game 3, Octane Blitz, right? Like, this is the part that doesn't make sense to me, is because 2 Octanes should not get through. But when you look at it, and this is where I'm coming from, to answer the question Like, I understand where the conspiracy theorists are. I really do, because I could see it, right? Like, you're playing them on 2 octanes and a strike zone. Like, that's 3 out of 4 game types that basically favor Optic Gaming. I understand where you're coming from, right? But when I looked at the demeanor of Envious, and you can't even predict all of it because, you know, Optic, they gave them game 3, basically. They ended up choking just a little bit. And Clayster actually got a little bit more mobile than how I'm used to seeing him play. He normally doesn't leave that base and just D's up, which we're going to see a lot today versus Optic Gaming. But we normally see him just D up and sit back and just, right? He got a little bit more mobile there, just a little bit. Now, I'm not saying he was like all over the map, but he was at about the 30-yard line where he's normally at about the 5, okay? So Envy wins game 3, and then they completely just get clutched on in game 4. If you're throwing a series, you don't really worry about it, right? You're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to lose this gunfight. Oh, I lost this gunfight, right? It's just not, it's not how it works, right? Like, if you're throwing the series, you're purposely making bad decisions. You're obviously, like, the decision-making that would be absolutely atrocious is, like, you spawn C flag, and there's no one in B for whatever reason. And instead of pushing closet, which is the fast route, so you run up the stairs, you hop in there, you jump out, your teammate comes in, bait and switch, rest in pieces, right? That's how it's supposed to work. Instead, you guys all push like pro shop, all just kind of moving along. Oh yeah, hey, the weather's beautiful out here, right? Oh, totally. Oh, I got outshot, right? That's not what happened. Envy's decision-making on strike zone was rather good. They literally just got clutched on versus Optic Gaming. Optic Gaming rose to the occasion on that game 4. The first 2 game types, maybe it was a throw. But there's just no way. I think Envy, Aches actually said it best to me last night via Twitter. He basically said, I don't think it's a full-blown throw. I think Envy was kind of in the scenario of, oh, if we lose, it's not that big of a deal, but if we win, it's still cool because it guarantees us the medal. And I think that makes the most accurate sense. God, I love coffee. Love it so much. So I think that's really what happened. I think Envy kind of went into it as maybe we can play them on 2 of their best game types and see if we can take it. And if we do, awesome. If not, if we meet up again, we know what the hell to veto, which there is a possibility of that happening. So now, Optic Gaming advances. Now, today at, give me 1 secundo. I got notes. At 12:30 in the afternoon, aka 1:30 p.m. Eastern, Optic will be taking on EG. Yeah, right? This is going to be wild. We'll see what happens and what EG team shows up, but we got a whole nother section to talk about predictions, and as we all know, my predictions, shit. They suck, at least for this event. So, the losers bracket, right? FaZe Red, really the story of the day for me. Like, FaZe Red completely just let me down. I thought FaZe Red was just like, you know, I thought they just had a bad Niagara event. I think FaZe Red may just be bad. As bad as that sounds, I literally think FaZe Red is just, something's not clicking. Yes. Okay, theory. Mr. Dillon. You know, he was on the Bahamas cruise, or he was at the Bahamas. He was on a cruise that led to the Bahamas. The Bahamas cruised to him. I have no idea what the hell he was doing. He was doing something that involves a tropical area, a cruise, I think, or the Bahamas. There's a mix-up in there, right? So they didn't get much. The week leading up to the X Games, they didn't really practice that much for it. I get it, but at the same time, I thought JCap had a very, very, very quiet event, right? Normally, we're used to seeing JCap, you know, perform outstandingly, right? He normally is the #1 guy on his team, right? Not all the time, but like he's consistently at the top, right? This event for me, I was kind of like JCap. Bud, what is your back's hurting too bad? You can't get your head in this game right now? Really? But, like, I'm not saying he did bad, but for, like, what I expect out of JCap, yeah, he didn't live up to the hype that is JCap for me. So then on the other side, like, Theory, right? Theory just was, like, Theory played pretty average, and I'm not sure where that came from. It was probably just because he wasn't able to play, but if you're phase red, you're a little bit worried about going back to the online league when you're sitting in about 7th place. Welcome back. Got a refill? It's delicious. Not even gonna lie. But it is now time. The Curse Orange versus Envy matchup, right? This series, as everyone thought, was, oh, it was thrown. It was totally thrown. Easy. Ease up, all right? Yes, when they saw it was Curse Orange, I thought it was very likely for both teams to throw in order to play Curse Orange, but hey, it is what it is. Optic Gaming, like Nate Shutt's tweet last night was absolutely priceless when he was like, just beat Envy 3-1, but something smells fishy. Like, I thought that was well done, right? Like, call your competition out. I get it. I like it. I'm a big fan of it, but I just don't know if that was the case. So, the Envy versus Curse Orange matchup definitely, obviously, favors Envy. I thought it should have been a little bit closer. Now, I know it was like a very close 3-0, right? But it's a 3-0. Like, if you're not closing out the games, you can't say the series is close, in my personal opinion. But we are going to talk about this spawn, okay? This is the spawn that everyone's talking about. It's the worst thing. We see it all the time. Now, when we say we see it all the time, I, of course, mean Maven and I. Maven and I basically cast, 2 league matches every single night, right? And we cover as much as possible. So in Sovereign Domination, basically, this is what ended up happening, okay? Curse Orange gets a 2-cap, right? So they have C flag, they have B flag, or they have A flag and B flag, and then they're looking at C, right? So Mud Dog's sitting like, basically right on Blue Street. His teammates aren't pushing up too far. They're actually overloaded over on the Snake side, but they haven't pushed up. They have like a guy in control room and 2 guys down low, right? And they're just basically waiting for them to come out. Envy spawns basically by generators, and then they, like, in the back research area, right? And they're trying to push out of there, but like, they have to go for their home flag, right? Like, Envy's first job off that spawn, get control of home flag, then push that 2-cap, right? If all 4 spawn there. But what ended up happening, and I'm not sure if it's dependent on where the members of Curse Orange was looking, because I think that's the only thing that makes sense. Because line of sight, if you take a spawn, okay, take a spawn like this, all right? Think of it as like a bubble. Your line of sight cast, let's just call it like a -4 influence, okay? If Mud Dog was looking at the spawn, right, that Merc should have gotten, the game's going to go, hup, we can't spawn you there. That's a bad spawn. You're going to get crapped on as soon as you spawn, buddy, so we're going to give you something else. And then it goes into this like mental breakdown, and then it realizes that it can't spawn you by your teammates because your teammates are in a gunfight, so it's going to spawn you opposite. That's basically how the system works. So Merc ended up, and I'm not saying Mud Dog was the one who was looking at it. I'm just using it as an example. Someone had to have been looking at the spawn in order for it to happen. Merc then spawns all the way at C, he spawns all the way at A, hops on A, gets the neutralization, gets the cap, in order. For some reason, I decided to say gets the neutral, then gets the cap, whatever. And then that prevents Curse Orange from actually getting like pressure on them. So Curse Orange got punished for having map control, right? It's one of the worst things in the history of gaming is the fact that line of sight casts such a big negative influence on spawns. Now, in Halo it happens as well, but in Call of Duty, like, it's a split-second game. Like, you really, I don't know, coffee time. Oh, God, immediately regret that decision. Super hot. Oh. Okay, so, single elimination bracket now, right? Envy 3-0s, Curse Orange. Curse Orange obviously is going to have a hard time bouncing back. But, actually, before I get into single elimination time, I will say this. Miyagi and Attach versus FaZe Red they lit them on fire. They were combined 20 kills, 1 death in the Search and Destroy on Warhawk. That's impressive. I always talked about Miyagi and Attach when this team formed. I said, dude, Miyagi and Attach, young up-and-comers, blah, 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 right? All the generic stuff. But what, like, everyone always does that. Basically, for casters, right? If we don't know much about a player because they're new to the scene, but we know that they're relatively good, we go, oh, up-and-coming player here. These guys are young talent. Keep an eye out for them. Now that you hear that, you'll realize every time you hear that it's basically bullshit. I won't lie to you. So Miyagi and Attach, you know, the one thing I will say about them is simply I thought Attach was a lot better online, and that's why he crapped the bed at Niagara. Like, I had a lot of high hopes for Curse Orange. I thought Curse Orange was going to do better than Curse Black at Niagara. I really did. Just be the one to say it. So when I look at the team, I say to myself, okay, Attach actually showed up on land. Miyagi, he's known for his Search and Destroy, right? Like, he went 15 and 4 versus Optic Gaming at the Philadelphia event. Granted, it was a completely different Philly event, but it's still impressive. So these guys have what it takes, but I think it's something about rising to the occasion for them, right? Obviously, hitting Envy is going to be very, very tough, right? But I think if you put Curse Orange and really just attaching Miyagi, you know, going up against FaZe Red like we saw, they're going to win that game, right? I think if they get the decent matchup, they can have a nice top 6 finish. I don't think they're ready to break into the top 4, by any stretch. But I think consistently, they could probably break in there. But now, single elimination bracket time, boys. Now, as everyone knows, here's the thing. I'm going to lean in here so everyone's sucked in, right? Right there. That's the booty. Seriously, just kidding. Moving forward. Single elimination bracket. TK comes out as the 1 seed. Optic Gaming comes out as a 1 seed. EG, 2 seed. Envious, 2 seed. Who needs freaking graphics when you got fingers, right? So, as everyone knows how this works, all right? This is this guy right here, EG. This guy up here, Optic Gaming. Whoop! They play. There, look at that cross, baby. Whew. Mind blown. TK taking on EG is going to be the very first matchup of the day. That's going to come on right after this. Okay, so we're going to talk about Optic Gaming taking on EG. Now, right away, okay, a lot of people are going to say, what the hell are you going to say about this, Scott, you biased piece of crap? Okay, well, number one, it's not biased if it's the number 1 team and you're saying they're the number 1 team. Number 2, shut up. Number 3, let's carry on. In the number 3 part, which is the let's carry on, EG versus Optic Gaming is going to be very, very tough. I think this is going to be a very, very close series, really hard fought. And the main reason why I say that is because Optic Gaming is absolutely disgusting at domination. Now, every single event, Optic always looks very dominant in the early rounds in domination, and then they get to EG and they fall just a little bit short, right? That might be the case here. But if they have the luck of the gods, and by the luck of the gods, the luck of the spawns, the luck of Infinity Ward, the luck of COD on their side, if they have just a little bit of COD timing, and they take that game 1 domination, EG is going to be a little bit timid, right? Optic Gaming's whole series rests on taking game 1, in my personal opinion. Because the last thing you want to do is go into a Search and Destroy, which we all know Optic Gaming, compared to EG and Search and Destroy, right here. The domination, who the hell knows, right? It really comes down to the vetoes, and I truly believe that, which we'll get into here in a second. So if you're an Optic Gaming fan, you want them to take game 1. You want them to basically just lose the search, just accept the loss on the Search and Destroy. I just spit. Blitz, you want them to have the ideal scenario here for Optic Gaming. Game 1, Game 3, Game 4. That's what they have to do. They have to 3-1 EG. Is it possible? Absolutely. Is it likely? I personally don't think so. I think EG will be taking this series. I think it's going to be 3-2, though. I have EG taking Game 1, Game 2, And then I have, my predictions suck, all right? Just for the record for this event, I've already kind of completely given it up. So I'm just getting crazy now. I have Optic Gaming coming from basically down 2-0 to force a Game 5 in which they get their hopes and dreams crushed. That's what I have happening. Now, is that going to be this case? Who knows? If I'm saying that it's Game 5 EG, that basically means the X Games venue is going to shut down, and we won't see the entire event. My predictions suck. Sometimes you just got to admit when you suck, and I suck. But I truly believe EG will end up taking the series. I think it's going to Game 5 in my scenario that I said. But, Optic Gaming does have a chance here. Like, there's a lot of times where people are like, oh, Optic Gaming, yeah, they definitely have a chance, right? They have a chance. Optic Gaming looks absolutely terrifying going into this one. And like I said, they have to take game number 1. What's up, Savages? The last segment of the Day 2 recap is going to happen right here, right now. We're talking about the first matchup of the day in the single elimination X Games event, which is going to be TK, Team Caliber, TK all day, versus Team Envious, hashtag Boys in Blue, a.k.a. Joseph Dick Swingin' DeLuca. The best picture of all time and the best Disney show of all time, trademarked. I'm his manager. Don't even think about it. I'll tweet the picture just in case you don't know what I'm talking about, but it's the coolest thing in the world. This matchup, right? This one's going to be very, very close, all right? The one thing you need to know is that these two teams have a lot of history together, okay? One, both have amazing owners in Chaos and Hastro, but we're not here to talk about the frickin' owners. We're here about the matchup, okay? Envious is a team who plays well versus teams who give EG a hard time, okay? If you look at it, look at XGN at Niagara, right? Envy blew them out of the water. Blew them out of the water. Same with Vex. Like, they just slapped them. EG struggled. Then EG beat the crap out of Envy. For whatever reason, it comes down to matchups in Call of Duty Ghosts, and it comes down to a little bit of luck and a little bit of timing, right? But Envy has their work cut out for them with TK, depending on what the vetoes are here, right? So when I'm looking at this matchup, if Envy is going, I wonder who they give the veto to. Veto first has to be TK. If you're TK, the first thing you veto, and let's see, veto a Dom, you get rid of Sovereign Domination. You have to get rid of Sov Dom. Then when it goes to Envy, then Envy will probably get rid of Strike Zone. I would assume after getting clutched on yesterday versus Optic Gaming, they would just throw that one out, okay? They'd throw it out, and they'd basically take Freight. And Freight would be the domination. But I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case. So I think overall, I think TK's the heavy favorite going into this one, with a lot of pressure resting on Parasite's shoulder. Like, yes, people basically like pointed out at Merc, like, oh, Merc sucked versus Optic Gaming. Yeah, he did. He looked pretty bad in Octane Dom, but when you move forward and you watch him versus Curse Orange, he was doing the best on his team. Now, there's a lot of moving pieces here in this matchup, right? You have to look at a couple things, right? And the first thing that I'm going to be paying attention to, that I want everyone to pay attention to, is TK, right? On TK, Goonjar, if they get in a map like Sovereign, and Goonjar doesn't pull out that sub quick enough and apply pressure, Envy's going to beat them in that game type 100%, right? 100% that will happen. Because Goonjar just sits back. He's kind of like Clayster on Octane. He sits back, Iron Boots, Blue Tunic, because he's going underwater, and just sits there and shoots, right? Like, he's not going to push up. He doesn't put any pressure on B. It doesn't matter. All of those kills are practically useless. Absolutely useless. Okay? Yeah, sure, he's going to go 23-20, but their team's going to lose by 20 points. So did he really do his job? The answer is no. So Goonjar has to pull out that switch a little bit quicker if they do find themselves playing Sovereign. On the flip side, Team Envious. 1, you need Study to play very consistent in the respawns. So far this event, Study's a freaking roller coaster of emotion, right? Like, he's like Finding Nemo, swimming through the sea looking for his mother. He doesn't know. He's going up, he's going down. He's got highs and lows. But I think Study, as long as he can play consistent on the respawns, they will be okay. The one thing we will be seeing here that was basically completely apparent, we can go ahead and throw the blitz to TK. Envy's going to get absolutely steamrolled on blitz, especially if it's Freight. Envy doesn't veto Freight. We at least know that TK will not be getting 3-0'd because they'll probably throw up 17 again. Nah, most likely 15. But regardless, they're probably the best blitz team right now as it stands. And that's an impressive title to hold. So TK taking on Envy. Where am I at time-wise here? Okay. TK versus Envy. Pre-match, full-blown prediction. What do you think, Scott? God, I'm always wrong, right? This weekend I've been always wrong. And the one thing to all you TK fans out there, every time I say TK is going to do well, they do bad. God, champs. God, champs. Bastards. Every time I overlook them, they do better than I expect, right? Niagara, better than I expected. I expected them to get like top 16. This event, I expected them to lose round 2 of the losers bracket to Optic Nation. They beat EG. You guys should be thanking me. That's what you should be doing. You guys should say, Scott, we want you to predict TK to do shitty every single event because we like to watch them continue to play. I'll say, okay. I got you, Bob. I don't know what this was at all, but my heart tells me Envy will most likely take the game to search. They'll lose the blitz. They'll win sovereign domination because TK will not veto it. Most likely TK is going to veto Warhawk Blitz. That one's going to be out. They don't want to play Warhawk Blitz versus Envy, so they use that veto. They get their Freight. Envy gets their Sov, and then Game 5, if it's Freight Search and Destroy, it's going to be tough for TK. If it's Octane Search and Destroy, going to be tough for TK. Yes, we see Neslo kind of pull out the Bulldog and push into Motel sometimes, which is a cool strategy, but if Envy adjusts to that, they hear a Bulldog call, and Neslo's going to be completely useless. So that's going to do it for me today. As always, follow the YouTube at your /UGC events and follow us on Twitter at UGC events. 6,000 followers we're giving away an Elgato for free. Just hit the follow button. I'll tweet the link. But as always, let's enjoy some COD. I have EG winning the entire thing. I don't care. Bring on more wrong predictions, Scott.